Hey guys, welcome back to Driver and the Kid. In the wake of wind and rain and the dreaded C word, I'm here in isolation with 100 acres of space all around me, and I'm here to show you the ultimate SUV for the apocalypse. It's just in front of me. It's the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. Over 700 horsepower, all-wheel drive, perfect for surviving this apocalypse and running over zombies. Let's get inside and take this thing for a drive. It's just in front of me. Okay, just quickly, because I can't help myself, let's just put this thing in track mode and see how we go, huh? So track mode, 70% of the power goes to the rear, 30% to the front. We have no traction control on apparently, and 295s at the rear are not enough. And there we go. It just comes out straight away. This could be a lot of fun. Okay. All right, I won't be doing too much of that, but I think track mode already, you could tell, I can only imagine on a dirt road how much fun that would be. Oh geez, okay. Let's find some tarmac and see how this thing drives and how it cruises. All right, in absolutely torrential conditions, wet roads and rain and everything else, we're gonna take the Trackhawk out for a drive. Okay, first things first, this car's super comfortable. You've got really large, comfortable leather seats. You've got pretty good side bolstering, but I think this thing would be quite comfortable on a long drive. What I like about this is it doesn't have all those fake pops and cracks, which I just think ruin the tone of the engine. You just get a nice tone ripping out the back and then the supercharger whine going through the front as we hit a 100 section. Oh! You really have to be quick with this gearbox. It rips through 8 gears. So one thing I didn't mention is red line is just 6,200 RPM. So it hits that red line so quickly, it just zips up there. So peak power comes in at 6,000, you have to be quick. You can't just sort of hang on like I do in my Porsche RS. It's just bang, up a gear, up a gear. Man, this car has so much character. You know, to put a Hellcat engine into an SUV just sounds crazy, but if anything it makes sense, because that engine just doesn't get traction. You see all these guys in Hellcats claiming that their car's going to do a 9-second quarter mile. It doesn't. Even in perfect conditions, they rarely even get anywhere close to what they're claimed because they don't get traction. This one, I think, is the one to get. You're not going to be taking it on the track anyway, so why not just get a Trackhawk? Oh, that's so good. Did I mention that the top speed is 289 kilometers per hour, and this car is going to be ramped up to 850 horsepower plus in the coming month or so. So I'll be able to do a back-to-back drive in a little while when this gets a few bits and pieces, some more fuel timing tune, intake, all that sort of stuff. Oh, this is just, it's impressive. It's seriously impressive. you know, the body roll is there, but it's not crazy. It's certainly not something that makes you feel really uneasy. I don't think I would feel comfortable in an inexperienced driver taking this car on track or driving it in anger. But oh, the torque at 4,000 RPM. And how do the brakes feel? So as I said, 6-piston, 400mm fronts. It takes a little while to slow up. Jeep claims 114 feet to slow from 100 km per hour, or was it 80? I think it was 114 feet, which is not too bad, given that we're shuffling around 2.4 tons. Well, a bit of sitting water just to make me a little bit uncomfortable. Sitting in track mode, yeah. That is addictive, no doubt addictive, as I just sort of try and traverse these undulations, potholes, and sitting water. But it's that mid-range torque as there should be. It's brilliant, it's really brilliant. Oh geez, you really have to stick your foot into the brake pedal to stop the car completely. Okay, so I think the gearbox is going to take some getting used to. What I might say is, we'll see if I hold there you go, back to D. What I'll say is, okay, I think it's better to just leave it in drive when you're in track mode. It seems to be a little bit smoother. There's still a fair shunt when you hit red line at 6,200, but yeah, it doesn't seem to like it too much when I start playing with the paddles, thinking that I can actually drive. Okay, the conditions are not getting any better. The smile on my face is getting bigger because, I'll tell you what, I'm usually a turbo guy, but the last couple of supercharged cars I've driven, the HSV GTS as well, there's a real charm to superchargers. I wouldn't like any more whine noise than this, but God knows the fuel consumption is gargantuan. The owner of this car that was saying that the HSV GTS that he has, which has 800 horsepower, drinks less fuel than this. I mean, that makes sense given that it's 2.4 ton though. So the reading in front of me gives you the oil temp, and that is shooting up really quickly when you start playing with the accelerator. I'm not sure how big the fuel tank is in this Grand Cherokee, but it needs to be big. It certainly needs to be big. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to get the TrackHawk into launch control. So quite simply, you're just changing your mode from auto or wherever you are to track mode, which will come up at track mode here in your center console. Then you just need to press the launch control button, which will light up, and then it says vehicle must be in first gear. Essentially apply brake pressure once it's in drive. Once you've pushed it down, it'll show you your brake pressure, and then it'll say in big green letters, launch enabled, and apply full throttle, and then you're on your way. And if you turn the steering wheel to your left or right, it'll say steering wheel must be straight. So I've never really had a launch control that's that easy, and then you're on your way. Okay, boys and girls, I wouldn't be a true YouTuber doing car reviews or vlogs, whatever, if I wasn't a 0 to 100 merchant. So given this car claims 0 to 100 in 3.7 seconds, we're in track mode. We're gonna get the launch button pressed, which is a great button on your top left. We're gonna see how we go. Launch enabled, apply full throttle. Let's see what we can do. Oh my god! Holy shit! Oh, that's a genuine reaction. Holy shit! I've got to see what draggy did with that. That was so clean. That was so clean. Oh no, what's happened to my draggy? 3.87 seconds. There you have it. I'm gonna screenshot that. Seriously. Oh, that launch was so impressive. There's smooth gear shifts. This thing is a rocket. It's an absolute rocket. This is so impressive. Holy shit. Oh my god. They should make this in a coupe or sedan with all-wheel drive, honestly. This thing is an absolute rocket. Now, you know, the two cars that I've got to compare to this are so different. So the Porsche Cayenne, which is all nice and super refined and brilliant to drive and probably has less body roll and probably bites the front end in better than this. And then I drove the GLC, which was an absolute monster of a car. But the thing with the GLC is it does not launch anywhere near as smooth as this. This thing just picked up and got traction. I'm on a wet road and it did 3.87 seconds. I'm shocked that it doesn't just, you know, that it doesn't just spin the wheels. Steering must be straight. Okay, well there we go. All right, so we spun the wheels on that one, but Jesus. I love how it just picks up so quickly. You're not waiting for boost or anything like that. All right, I'm starting to prattle on now, but if you were driving this, I think you'd understand. You'd understand my reaction. Yeah. The only sort of drawback, well not only, but one of the big drawbacks I guess is fuel consumption. But hey, during the apocalypse, we've got cheaper fuel prices. So, you know, there's a silver lining to that. All right. How does she do in the corners? Well, the front end feels relatively sharp for an SUV. But what's best is just the mid-range torque and the responsiveness. It's just brilliant. The brakes, I haven't pushed them hard, I'm not going to. They don't feel super confident. However, reviews of these cars have been done at Phillip Island Winton Raceway and they've held up pretty well. So yeah, again, impressive. So sitting in the Trackhawk is a really comfortable place to be. You've got a large steering wheel with a flat bottom. You've got your paddles, which are connected to the really decent 8-speed, of course, ZF gearbox. I don't know any other sort of brand that's able to bring out an auto that can handle almost 900 Newton meters, and it does it quite well, quite responsive, considering it's just a normal auto. As I said, every button here is large, kind of like other Jeep products, and everything is leather. So this vehicle, this particular model, is spec'd with two really good things, and that's the extended leather package, which means that the dash, there's no, and the sides of the door cards, the sides of the center console here, everything is leather. You find it really hard to find a scratchy piece of plastic. Particularly all your touch points feel quite decent. Your paddles are also, they don't feel too bad, but you've got carbon inlay all around the car as well, including the rear. The second option, which I think is really good, is the 19-speaker Harman Kardon system, which is really brilliant. Sitting in the back, which I have done for a number of hours in the past, you get a really good surround sound system, very crisp, very bassy. I think it's quite good for an option. Other things to think about in the interiors, sitting in the rear is not that comfortable. I've sat in the rear for a couple of hours. Unfortunately, the depth of the car is quite shallow, so you sort of sit with your knees up and you sit quite high. So sitting in the back for a couple of hours made me a little bit nauseous. But apart from that, all the leather appointments I think are really, really nice. Things that first come to mind when you get in the Trackhawk is that you have a push to start red starter button, which is kind of in an awkward place hidden behind the steering wheel. You have a foot brake, which I'm not always a fan of, but basically this center dash is almost all digital. You've got a 8+ inch Uconnect system in the center of the dash, which is quite responsive. Look, against the competition of Porsche and Mercedes, I think it doesn't look as sexy as them, but it is responsive, clear. The reversing camera is brilliant, as it needs to be in a mid-size SUV like this. What do you guys think of the center console though? So you've got partly analog with the speedo, the oil gauge and the fuel. It looks kind of, well, it does look a bit boy racer, kind of like, you know, a Hot Wheels sort of colors and aesthetic. Not really my favorite sort of thing, but this car is just so charming. So this thing I think looks like an absolute beast. I love it in the color bright white with the yellow calipers and the black wheels. So the 20-inch wheels on this car that you can see are an option. The yellow brake calipers are 6 pistons and 400 millimeters. You've got the little Hemi badges that are in red, and one of my favorite features about the exterior of this car is the little sort of snorkels or vents in the bonnet, which make it just look that much more aggressive. This being the 4th generation Grand Cherokee, actually came out all the way back in 2010, but it really, from the exterior in my opinion, really doesn't look like a 10-year-old aesthetic. I think it looks really, really cool. Sadly, I used to be so anti-SUV, but I guess the more half-decent ones that I drive and the more ones that I sort of see, they're unfortunately growing on me. So yeah, let me know what you think about the exterior. I think it looks pretty tough, and I think for around the price range, it doesn't look too, you know, expensive. So at the rear, you've got the quad tips, they're black exhaust as well. What else is there? That's pretty much the exterior, but you've got larger grille at the front as well to feed the supercharged V8. Okay, so I'm heading on back now. The weather's terrible.
Wait a minute.
Basically, I've got the loot in the back, the 24 pack of toilet paper. I've got a 700 horsepower SUV in the middle of nowhere, so I'm all ready for an apocalypse. And I think for the money, this car does make sense because it's just so entertaining. This is an SUV where the drawbacks of it trying to be a sports car are not so great that it makes you hate it overall. Oh man, that torque is just something else in track mode. So I've got the loot, I've got the right car. I'm going to put the car away now and say goodbye to you guys. This is DriverandtheKid. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I've got a bunch of new ideas that we're going to be implementing for our corona-affected world in coming weeks, because it's getting really hard to get stuff to film, obviously, but I hope you enjoyed this. If you ever get a chance to drive a Trackhawk, please do. I think it'll change your mind about Mopar or SUVs, because it certainly has done to me. I sort of wish that this driveline, as I said, was in a coupe or a sedan, because it's monstrous. It's monstrous!